Hi, boys and girls. It's Miss Monica, and this week we are discussing Louisiana, the culture of Louisiana. We're discussing New Orleans, the food of Louisiana, some of the things that are only common in our state. But with my summer reading, I want to talk to you guys about Louis Armstrong. Our airport is named after him. We have different festivals and things of that nature associated with his legacy. So I'm going to start off by listening to a little music, some of his music when the Saints go marching in. So check it out. This is Louis Armstrong, guys.
Now when the saints go marching in, now when the saints go marching in, oh yes I want to be in that number, yes. When the saints go marching in.
All right, guys. So that's the famous musician, Mr. Louis Armstrong. Now, the book that we'll be reading today, um, it's about him. Let me get to the correct screen. Let's see. Okay, let me X now. All right. Let me go to my screen share. All right. All right. So, just a lucky so and so, the story of Louis Armstrong by Lisa Klein Ransom, illustrated by James Ransom. An award winning team tells the story of the jazz innovator Louis Armstrong rise from street wave to international star. All right. In New Orleans, Louisiana, in a part of town outside of Storyville, tucked in a corner called Backo Town, in a section nicknamed the Battlefield, little Louis Armstrong was born, black and poor and lucky. On the corner of Perdido and Liberty, little Louis lived in one room with no lights and no running water. But it was home to him and his sister, Mama Lucy, and his mama, May Ann. The grandson of slaves, little Louis toted laundry hall coal, sold newspapers, and scavenged through garbage to earn money for his family. On the streets, little Louis sometimes made his own trouble, but it was nothing his mama's sharp tongue and a switch from the China berry tree and Grandma Josephine's yard couldn't fix. I never worry what the other fellas has as long as you're having fun in your own way. Every day outside his window, little Louis listened up and down the streets to the music of brass bands, funeral marches, honky tonks on Saturday nights, church services on Sunday mornings. Across the street, he peeked through the cracks of Funky Butt Hall. On cornet, the sassy ragtime music of Bunk Johnson, Buddy Bolden, and Joe Oliver followed him wherever he went. Johnson had tone, Bolden blew hard, but for little Louis, it was King Oliver who could outblow, outperform any horn player in all of New Orleans. The king of all musicians was Joe Oliver. School learning at the Fifth School of Boys began for little Louis at 7. Before school and after on the wagon next to Moore's, little Louis toothed a tin horn, penny for your rags and bleeded nickel for your scrapes. Through the window of a pawn shop, a cornet caught Louis's eye. A $5 loan from Moore's bought, bought the cornet for Louis. Some brass polish and oil brought the horn to life. Although I could not play a good tune, Morris applauded me just the same. Down Rampart Street, 4 boys harmonized My Brazilian Beauty. Little Mac on drums, Big Nose Sidney on bass, Redhead Happy Bolton as baritone, and the gravely tenor of Little Louis, the boy with a smile so wide open kids called him Satchel Mouth. New Year's Eve in New Orleans was all music, fireworks, and midnight shots fired in celebration. Little Louis joined with his stepfather's gun. All of his scrapes with law added up. At 11 years, little Louis was sent away. I thought the world was coming to an end. At the Colorways Home for Boys, little Louis could barely eat. He missed his mama, his sister, and his cornet. Through his open windows drifted the call of the bugle. A bugle to rise, a bugle for chores, a bugle for bed. The band leader, Mr. Davis, told little Louis that boys from the battlefield don't belong in the band. Little Louis sang solos for everyone to hear. Mr. Davis listened and started Louis with the tambourine. Then he played the drums. Mr. Davis made him a bugler. Then he put him on cornet. Mr. Davis made him the band leader. The band traveled to play in every corner of New Orleans, uptown and downtown, West End, Spanish Fort, and Front Old Town. But for little Louis, there was nothing like walking through his old neighborhood at the head of the band, blowing Home Sweet Home. Lining the streets was everyone he knew, and right up front was his mama, May Ann. I could not think of anything but my good luck. At 14, little Louis returned to Pareto Street, not so little. By then, he could make any song swing. Louis needed to hear a song just once, and it was his. He worked all day hauling coal and all night playing in honky tonks around towns. Louis met Joe as Joe paraded through town with the Onward Brass Band and followed him everywhere. Louis ran Joe's errands, carried his horn. But in the between times, Joe taught Louis note by note. In Joe's home, Louis filled up on rice and beans and music lessons. Louis traded in his pawn shop cornet for Joe's used one. Louis listened to Joe's horn crow like a rooster, growl like a lion, cry like a newborn baby. Two horns side by side, so close, Louis called him Papa Joe. Aboard the SS Sydney, he blew swing, waltzes, and dance tunes all up and down the banks of the Mississippi River. On land, Louis blew with the Tuxedo Brass Band and then Kid Ory's hottest jazz band in town, featuring Baby Dodds, Pops Foster, and his Papa Joe Oliver. After a time, New Orleans honky tonks were too small for the king. Joe hopped a train and blew goodbye to New Orleans. Chicago was waiting. Louis stepped in where Joe stepped out. His horn had folks talking about the little boy from the battlefield. Night after night, Louis filled up the halls, filled up the streets, filled up his pockets with the music from his cornet. 4 years later, Joe sent a telegram. Louis was ready to leave. He sent for me, and whatever he's doing, I want to do it with him. All aboard! Louis stood on the train platform, fish sandwich in one hand, cornet in the other. Worried he'd catch a cold in the windy city, his mama made him wear long johns in the August heat. Joe Oliver and Chicago were waiting. On the south side of Chicago, at the corner of 31st and Cottage Grove, Louis peeked into Lincoln Gardens Dance Hall. A globe glittered from the ceiling. A balcony looked over the dance floor. Joe and King Oliver's Creole Jazz Band warmed up. Opening night always makes you feel as though little butterflies were running around in your stomach. Louis' tuxedos was pressed and patched and small. He walked to the bandstand where Baby and Johnny Dodds, Lou Hardin, Honore Dutry, and Bill Johnson waited. From the very first note, they knew. He played quietly behind Joe, softly in the back, echoing after Joe. Someone yelled, "Let that youngster blow!" And Louis stepped forward and stood in front of Joe and blew. My boyhood dream had come true at last. Louis stood in front of bands in Chicago, New York, California, and Europe, on records in Hollywood, on Broadway, and on the radio. The little boy from New Orleans, Louisiana, from a part of town outside Storyville, in a corner called Backo Town, in a section nicknamed the Battlefield, was just a lucky so-and-so. I was so happy I did not know what to do. I had hit the big time. All right, boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed learning more about Louis Armstrong with me, listening to some of his music earlier in our reading. Please continue to watch the videos. Please join us on our lives, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.